Hello students, welcome to Epitome IAS. This is Mansoor. So, as a part of this Geography Ncert series, in previous class we have seen the part 2, right. So, in that part 2 video we have seen regarding the northern plains that are present in India. Now, as a continuation, today we will be seeing the third landform or the third geographical landform that was naturally formed in India, and that is the peninsular plateau. So, we will be seeing what is the peninsular plateau, where does this peninsular plateau has been formed, and what are the different components of this peninsular plateau, or else we can say that what are the different divisions that are existed in this peninsular plateau, right. So, we will be seeing the content which was given in this particular Ncert. If you see this particular content here he is saying that the peninsular plateau is a tableland composed of old crystalline, igneous and metamorphic rocks. Now, the point here is, see, first of all we have to understand what is meant by a plateau. What is meant by plateau? Plateau is nothing but a land which is in shape of table, or else we can say that it is a tableland. So, what is the difference between plateau and plain? Plain is nothing but it is a flat land. Then what about plateau? Is plateau not a flat land? Yes, plateau might be a flat land, right. Plateau is also a kind of a flat land, but the point is the main difference would be in its elevation, right. When you compare the plateau with plain, plateau is somewhat higher when compared to the plain. So, what is the source that we are saying here? This particular plateau is higher from what? This particular plateau is higher from the mean sea level, right. So, from mean sea level, or if you take the mean sea level, the plateau and plateau would be somewhat in higher elevation when compared to this particular plain. Now, the point is, even on plateaus you can find plains and you can find mountains, right. But the only criteria or only point is these particular plateau will be above, or this particular plateau will be somewhat in higher elevation when compared to the plains, right. So, as I told you earlier, even on plateau we might be having plains, we might be having mountains, that is different scenario, right. Now, particularly when we are talking regarding this peninsular plateau, if you see the source material with which this peninsular plateau was formed, the source material is metamorphic rocks as well as igneous rocks, and you will be finding the rocks which are crystalline, and that too you will be having the old crystalline rocks in this particular peninsular plateau. It was formed due to the breaking and drifting of Gondwana land, and thus making it a part of oldest landmass. This is also an important point here. Now, if you compare this particular plateau with the Himalayan mountains, these Himalayan mountains are younger when compared to this peninsular plateau. What does it mean? It means that peninsular plateau has formed in long back when compared to this particular Himalayan mountains. Now, we already seen that during this drifting of this Gondwana land and breaking of this Gondwana land, what happened? During this breaking process and during this drifting process, we have seen the formation of this particular peninsular plateau. When this Indian plate has collided with the Eurasian plate, during that collision only we have seen the formation of this particular Himalayas. The point here is, way before formation of Himalayan mountains, we have to understand that the peninsular plateau has been formed. Now, if you see this peninsular plateau, it has broad and shallow valleys and rounded hills. This is also one of the characteristic, right. So, even as I told you earlier, plateaus also will be having a certain hills, certain mountains, right. Now, if you see the nature, or if you see the size, or if you see these particular things, or this the plateau has broad and shallow valleys and rounded hills. What does it mean? It means that, as I told you earlier, even on plateaus we would be having hills, we would be having mountains, right, we would be having plains. So, if you see these particular plateaus, that is our peninsular plateau, the hills which are present on this peninsular plateau, they are rounded hills. That means they won't be having that much sharp cliff, right. They won't be having that much sharp inclination, they are very rounded. And if you see here, we would be finding valleys, right. So, what type of valleys we can see in this particular peninsular plateau? We would be seeing the wider valleys, right, and we would be seeing the shallower valleys. What does it mean? It means that the depth of that particular valley would be very, very less when compared to other valleys which can be seen in Himalayan ranges, right. So, what is the characteristic of the valleys which are found in Himalayan mountains? There the valleys are very deeper, that means the depth is very high, but at the mouth you can see that it is very narrower, right. The narrower valleys with higher depths is seen in Himalayan mountains, but when it comes to peninsular plateaus would be having wider as well as shallow valleys. Now, this plateau consists of two broad divisions, namely Central Highlands as well as Deccan Plateau. What does it mean? It means that if you see this particular picture, you can easily understand that this entire portion, right, this entire portion is a peninsular plateau, and in this peninsular plateau you can see two divisions, right, based upon what we are dividing these making these two divisions based upon a river, that is Narmada river, right. So, depending upon this Narmada river, to the north side of Narmada river, this particular peninsular plateau we are calling it as an Central Highlands, and towards the southern side of this Narmada river, this particular plateau is called as an Deccan Plateau, right. So, as I told you earlier, this particular peninsular plateau we can divide into two groups. One is Central Highland, second one is Deccan Plateau. And what we are taking as a point of division, we are taking this particular Narmada river as a boundary, right, for dividing these two plateaus. Now, if you see here, the part of a peninsular plateau lying to the north of Narmada river covering a major area of Malwa plateau is known as a Central Highland. So, the same thing, right, which was seen in previous picture. So, the area above this particular the area which is towards the northern side of this particular Narmada river, that particular area or that particular plateau we call it as an Central Highland. Now, the Vindhya ranges are bounded by Satpura ranges on the south and Aravallis on the northwest. What does it mean? It means that if you see this particular river, right, which is that here we have Narmada river, right, towards the northern side of Narmada river we have what we have? We have Central Highland, and if you see this particular Central Highland, this particular Central Highland is having Vindhya mountains, and towards the southern side we have Satpura mountains, and here we have in Rajasthan we have Aravalli mountains, right. So, these are the three mountain ranges that are present in Central Highlands. The further westward extension gradually merges with the sandy and rocky deserts of Rajasthan. The flow of the rivers draining this region, namely Chambal, Sindh and Betwa and Ken, is from southwest to northeast. Now, the point here is, if you see this particular plateau, right, if you see this particular plateau here, this particular plateau is extending towards the western side, right, and this would be reaching or this would be merging with what? They would be merging with that particular desert, that is Thar desert, and here you would be seeing different types of rivers. So, what are the rivers that we are having? Chambal, Sindh, Betwa and Ken rivers, they would be lying in this particular peninsular plateau. So, more specifically Central Highlands. Now, the Central Highlands are wider in west but narrower in the east. What does it mean? It means that if you see this particular Central Highland, these Central Highlands, they are very wider in this western portion, but when it comes to the eastern portion, they are very narrow. What does it mean? It means that the area covered in western side of India with this Central Highland is very high when compared to the eastern side of India. The eastward extension of this plateau are locally known as Bundelkhand and Bagelkhand. Now, what does it mean? It means that different areas are having different names for this particular Central Highlands. Now, when you are coming towards the eastern side, in eastern side they are called as Bundelkhand and Bagelkhand. Now, where does this Bundelkhand and Bagelkhand is present? Now, if you see this particular picture, you will be identifying that this entire the northern thing, it is called as an Central Highland, right. Now, the point here is this particular Malwa plateau and Bundelkhand Plateau and Baghelkhand Plateau, right? These three plateaus as well as Marwar Plateau, right? All these three plateaus or four plateaus are present on the central highland, right? So that is why we are saying that when this central plateau is seen, right, towards the western side of, towards the eastern side of this particular central plateau, they are giving the local names, right? So in this area, this is particular central highland is called as Bundelkhand Plateau, and the people who are living in this particular area, they call this particular highland as Baghelkhand Plateau. Now, the Chota Nagpur Plateau marks the further eastward extension drained by Damodar River. Now, the point is, if you see this particular plateau, right, so up to here we have seen that different areas is having a different name to the central highland. Now, if you furtherly move towards the eastern side, we have this particular plateau that is called as Chota Nagpur Plateau, and even this Chota Nagpur Plateau is a part of central highland. The Deccan Plateau is a triangular landmass that ties, the Deccan Plateau is a triangular landmass that lies to south of river Narmada. The Satpura range flanks its broad base in the north, while Mahadev and Kaimur hills and the Michael range form its eastern extension. Now, what does it mean? It means that now we are talking regarding the second division, right? The second division is Deccan Plateau. Now, if you see the northern boundary, we have Narmada river as its northern boundary, right? So, with the plateau which is southern side of this Narmada river, we call that plateau as an Deccan Plateau, and Satpura ranges and some other hills called Mahadev hills, Kaimur hills as well as Michael ranges, they form as the eastern extension of this particular plateau. Now, the Deccan Plateau is higher in west and slopes gently eastward. What does it mean? It means that if you see this particular Deccan Plateau, the altitude or the height of the western side of Deccan Plateau is very high when compared to the height in the eastern side of this Deccan Plateau. Usually it would be like the gradient would be very, very low when you are traveling from west side to the eastern side, right? What does it mean? It means that the height in the western side of Deccan Plateau is very higher when compared to the height in eastern side of the Deccan Plateau. That is why majority of the rivers would be generated in this particular Western Ghats, and they would be travelled all along the eastern side, and they would be merging into the sea. So, because of that particular gradient, we would be seeing that kind of phenomena. Now, an extension of the plateau is also visible in northeast, locally known as Meghalaya, Karbi Anglong Plateau and North Chachar Plateau. It is separated by a fault from Chota Nagpur Plateau. So, what does it mean? It means that this particular Deccan Plateau, you can see its extension in, you can see the extension of this Deccan Plateau in the northeastern states, mainly near here Karbi Anglong Plateau as well as this Meghalaya Plateau, right? Now, if you see here, the Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats mark the western and eastern edges of Deccan Plateau respectively. The Western Ghats lies parallel to the western coast. They are continuous and can be crossed through process only. What does it mean? It means that towards the western side of this particular Deccan Plateau, what we have? We have Western Ghats, and towards the eastern side of this Deccan Plateau, we have Eastern Ghats. Now, these particular Western Ghats, they are parallel to the western coast that we are having. Now, if you see this particular picture, you can easily understand that here we have Western Ghats and here we are having Eastern Ghats, and this Western Ghats is parallel to the west coast, right? And this Eastern Ghats is parallel to the eastern coast that we are having. Now, if you see this particular Western Ghats, this Western Ghats is having a small breaks in it, right? So, they are continuous, but still they are having small gaps. If you see the gaps that are present in Western Ghats, we can see all this red line, this indicates the Western Ghat. Now, in this particular region, there is a break, right? So, that particular Ghat or that particular break or that particular pass, we call it as an Thal Ghat. And here we have one more pass, right? So that is Bhor Ghat, and here we are having one more pass, that is Pal Ghat. So these are the different, at different places we are having a different passes or different breaks, right? So each pass has its own name, Tal Ghat, Bhor Ghat and Pal Ghat. Now the point here is we have to remember, or we have to memorize these particular ghats. So there might be a chance of asking question on this particular ghats, right, on this particular passes. So sometimes he would be asking to arrange from north to south direction or from south to north direction, right? So if he is asking that particular question, how we have to answer? Obviously, if you are able to remember these particular ghats from north to south or south to north, it would be very, very easy for us. The Western Ghats are higher than Eastern Ghats, and their average elevation is 900 to 1600 meters against 600 meters of the Eastern Ghats. What does it mean? It means that we have to understand the height or the elevation or the altitude of this particular Western Ghat is very, very higher when compared to the Eastern Ghats, right? In this particular chapter, he has given a certain number, certain figures. Now here he is saying that the average elevation of the Western Ghats would be from 900 to 600 meters, and when you talk about this Eastern Ghats, the average elevation would be only 600 meters. Now the Eastern Ghats stretches from Mahanandi Valley to the Nilagiris in the south. What does it mean? If you see this particular Eastern Ghats, it starts from the Mahanandi Valley, right? So and it ends in the Nilagiri hills. So at this particular Nilagiri point, we will be seeing the merging of these particular Western Ghats with the Eastern Ghats. Now the Eastern Ghats are discontinuous and irregular and dissected by rivers draining into Bay of Bengal. So what does it mean? It means that when compared with the Western Ghats, the Eastern Ghats are more discontinuous, right? So majority of the rivers would be flowing from Western Ghats to the Eastern Ghats, and after that, after passing these Eastern Ghats, they would be merging into the sea. The Western Ghats cause orographic rain by facing the rain bearing moist winds to rise along the western slopes of the Ghat. What does it mean? It means that during the monsoon times, we know that all the rain carrying clouds would be entering into India, right? So whenever these rain carrying winds or rain carrying clouds will collide with this particular Western Ghats, there we can see some precipitation, right? That precipitation happens in form of rain, right, in form of water. So that particular rainfall, which is caused because of collision of these particular clouds with the mountains, that particular rainfall we call it as an orographic rainfall, right? So these mountains would obstruct the movement of these clouds. Because of that obstruction, we would be seeing the sudden release or the sudden precipitation of that particular cloud, right? So here he is saying that these particular Western Ghats would be having rainfall. Which type of rainfall? Orographic rainfall. And if you see, the western side of Western Ghats are more, they would be wetter, right, when compared to the eastern side of the Western Ghat, right? Why? Because all the rainfall would happen towards which side? Towards the western side of Western Ghats, and the eastern side of Eastern Ghat would be acting as an rain shadow zone. Now the Western Ghats are known by different local names. Obviously in different areas, these Western Ghats are having different names. Now the height of Western Ghats progressively increases from north to south. So if you see these particular Western Ghats, the height from the north, when you compare to the height in the south, obviously the height would be increasing. What is the highest point or highest peak in this particular Western Ghats? Anaimudi. Right? What is the height? 2695 meters. And the second highest is Dorabetta. What is the height of this particular peak? 2637. And the third highest peak is Mahendragiri. And what is the height? Height is 1501 meters, right? So this is regarding the Western Ghats. Now if you see here, Eastern Ghats, if you see here, one of the distinct feature of a peninsular plateau is a black soil area known as the Deccan Traps. Obviously, a majority of this particular Deccan Trap or this Deccan Plateau is having which type of soil? Black soil, right? So those areas where we have black soils, they are called as an Deccan Traps. Why we are calling them as Deccan Traps and why they are in black color? obviously these soils are formed, or these soils is having a volcanic origin, or due to volcanic activities we can see these black colored soils formed in this particular plateau. Now, actually these rocks have denuded over time and are responsible for formation of black soils. Now, as I told you earlier, this particular black soil is a result of denudation activity or erosional activity that happened in these particular rocks which are present in peninsular plateau or Deccan plateau. Right, over a period of time, because of this denudation or because of this erosion, we came to that particular point where we can see the black soil, and we are calling this particular black soil as volcanic origin. Why? Because the rocks from which this soil has been created, those rocks are formed because of the cooling of the volcano. And how this volcano has came to the surface? Because of the Deccan traps, or because of the cracks, or because of the traps which are present in this particular layer. Right. Now, the Aravalli Hills lies on the western and northwestern margins of peninsular plateau. These are highly eroded hills and are found as broken hills. They extend from Gujarat to Delhi in southwest northeast direction. Now, in previous picture we have seen the Aravalli ranges, right? These Aravalli ranges would be acting as a northwest boundary for this entire peninsular plateau. And if you see these particular Aravalli ranges, they are mostly eroded, right? So, we can see the extension of this Aravalli ranges from Gujarat to the Delhi, but the continuous ranges we can't see, right? We would be seeing most discontinuous ranges, and they are more prone, or they are actually majority of those particular ranges are denuded or they are eroded, right? So, that is why we would be seeing the discontinuous ranges in the Aravallis, right? So, this is regarding the peninsular plateau. So, in next part we would be seeing the remaining geographical features which are there in India, right? So, that is third desert. We would be seeing regarding the third desert, we would be seeing regarding the coastal plains as well as the islands, right? With that we can finish this particular chapter. So, thank you so much for watching this video.